So everybody, if you don't have this file open, I'm going to send you a link to it, and preferably download it onto your desktop or something so that you can have a real PowerPoint version of it. So I just put the link into the chat. You should be able to click on it and download it from there. And that's our PDR, which is the preliminary design review document that we have to turn into NASA. This one is specifically for the August 2nd campaign and not for the total campaign that we're working on. Does anybody have any questions about that, or like what is a PDR? Or this one,
Okay,
this one is.
Okay, now she can hear us.
What's that? Y'all need to turn down your speakers or something because you're getting a lot of feedback. Thank you. This is why having multiple people and multiple computers in the same room doesn't work out so well. I think having one person in the room unmuted would be fine. There'll be a little bit of feedback, but not much. So whoever has a better microphone, I guess.
For the launch, for August launch, yeah, we need to go.
Eric is saying that we need to go over the payloads that we're going to be launching for August.
So for the August 2nd flight?
Yes.
Right. So we are definitely launching an IMET-R.
IMET-R.
We are definitely launching something else that goes along with that, like another experiment. It's either gaseous compounds, VLF, TEC, or particle detection. Kind of depends on who gets ready first, and also we're waiting on Dr. Bering to hear back about whether or not we're getting. At first we thought we were definitely retrieving these payloads, but now he's not sure, and so I'm waiting to hear back from him about that.
Oh, so these are zero payload, zero pressure balloons that we're launching, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and what's happening is that these other USIP teams are being launched by NASA as scheduled on a zero pressure balloon flight, and so they're all going out there and doing it, so we're sending some of our stuff out there as well. And one of the key things is to test out the IMET-R and see how it works for long times, and to test our telemetry system at long distances and long ranges. So this means that we have to put together, all the payload teams need to be working in overdrive, and the experiment teams that I named, gaseous compounds, which when we say gaseous compounds for now, we mean the radiosonde. Do not work on the U-pod right now, because we need to work on our homegrown radiosonde for now. So gaseous compounds, VLF, TEC, and particle detection are the four that should be working under the impression that we might launch on August 2nd. Really, you should be working under the impression that you will launch on August 2nd and that that's your due date. And then we'll see what kind of results we get from that, and from there we'll decide who we actually launch. Does that answer your question, Erica, or was it kind of not what you meant?
No. Okay.
Okay, she's on her way here.
Cool.
Okay. All right. The problem is that we need to know what is definite so that we can make so that Hamza can start working on the software, and so we can know that all the parts are going to be working on what we need to be launched. So we actually need to have a definite, we're going to launch this, we're going to launch that, so we can start with programming and we can start choosing everything.
Okay, pretend like we're going to launch all of them.
Okay, but in that case, so we need to know what are the parts and everything else. Like TEC has to come and talk with the Radioson group so we can know that we can make this Radioson work with their project. Now we have to go to the particle detection. They have to do that also, and that's where Hamza needs to get together with them so that he can know what parts they're using so he can start working on the software. I need to know what they have for that so I can know how to connect my Radioson to their parts. So in that case, we kind of need an outline of the payloads, what they consist of, and a little, I guess, a diagram of how we're going to do it or what we're going to launch, so that way we can start on the software. We can start making sure everything goes.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That makes a lot of sense. And that's pretty much exactly the information that I need for the PDR. So that sounds great.
Okay.
So, kind of the basic diagram that if somebody wants to, can we use the chalkboard that's behind Daniel?
Yep.
Like, can we erase that stuff?
Hold on there. Let me take a picture. Just in case.
Probably anybody who's, that's fine. Probably anybody who's not in the room won't be able to read it, but we'll take a picture of it and get it in less chalky form. But what I wanted to sit down and do was draw out kind of the basic connections between the components on the team. So we're just going to pretend, as far as planning goes, that we are flying all 4 instruments. So we would be flying the radiosonde, the IMET-R, the VLF, TEC, particle detection, batteries for all that stuff, and Arduino for actual handling. And that when I say Arduino, I'm just saying like the actual processor and then any shields that we would need to go along with it. And then also our transmitter.
And for the particle detector, we need to apply the Raspberry Pi too.
Right, that's true. I'm kind of considering that as part of your thing.
Okay. Yeah.
So like there's your actual sensor, but the entire particle detection package includes the Raspberry Pi in my mind.
All right. Yeah.
But that is important to bring up. Because that's another software interface that the software team has to work on, and that you, Daniel and Rocio, need to work on as well with them. Do you have a Raspberry Pi?
Is there any possibility?
No, I do not have a Raspberry Pi.
Okay. Do you know if there's anywhere you can go to buy one? Like around you? Like physically go to a store?
Let's see.
You can order it on Bark Fun or some other.
Radio Shack has them.
Where
I
at?
like mine does.
Okay. Well, if you only order them
he's back in our
online,
club.
we might as well order them for him. So we'll just get started on that immediately. We need to get you one of those now. Has one been ordered?
I thought Abdul ordered one, but I'm not too sure.
Okay.
He's gonna use one for Star Trek.
Ask Diego. So write that down and ask Diego.
I'll just text him right now.
Okay.
Is there any possibility, well, we can do one latex balloon launch?
No. They're just looking into 0. But we will be doing latex balloon launches to practice. So like after this, we have to make a deadline to meet the other groups. That's why we're in a hurry and we don't want to look like shit in front of everybody. So we need to have this done.
All right.
After that, we can take our time and we're going to build the U-Pod and we're going to build everything else and we're going to test launch and we can do test launching here.
The only reason I asked is because I talked to Dr. Payne Smith, and I was assuming we were doing the latex. I told her I was going to try to have mine ready for the launch, but I'm not the 0 pressure since there's no point.
Yeah, but if not, we can always do a practice launch. So just be ready for, just keep yours going.
Right.
And we can do a local launch for you on campus. That's not a problem.
Yeah, we can do. All we got to do is track where it's going to go, and then we can decide by the day. That's not a problem. But just so you guys know, the IMET-R is a commercial radiosonde. That is something we purchased. What we want with the IMET-R is to compare it to our radiosonde that we're going to build. And we want to see if the data is just as fast, GPS, all that good stuff. That's what we're using the IMET-R for comparison. And also because we know it's commercial and it works, we're launching it to make sure we can find our stuff.
Yeah.
Unmet R is not like anything special for us. We don't build that, nothing like that. It's already purchased. We have it set up with Dr. Laffer, so don't worry about that. But what we're worried about is building our SON. So,
Okay. The other thing that we need is the stacks. Like how many shields are gonna go for each of the payloads for TEC, particle detector, VLF, and radiuson. So we can start like
the
coding
parts
for it.
list, I guess, of what everyone's using.
Not even like more than that. Like
What?
what parts are gonna go at the same time?
Right.
Yes. That's what we need for each of the payloads that would fly.
Can somebody text, well, for your TEC?
Abdul. I mean,
Okay,
Aaron.
you know your
Aaron.
parts, so you can fill this part out.
Okay, for TEC, it's gonna be the receiver,
Okay.
the Arduino, and transmitter.
Arduino. What transmitter are you guys using?
Same one, XPO micro.
So,
And probably one shield to convert RS-232
RS-232 shield.
to the transmitter. Yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, what does TEC stand for again?
Total electron content.
Okay. Total electron content. And so tell me, why do y'all need a transmitter again?
Why do you need a transmitter?
Don't you
Okay,
have to
we need
do
a transmitter.
board?
No, we need the transmitter to get the data from the balloon down to the laptop.
Okay, but you see, this is on here. This I'm gonna attach to this to transmit your data. See
Yeah,
this?
but is the TEC and the radiuson going to be on the same balloon?
That's what we're trying to do. But actually, I'm trying to make 1, 2, 3 copies of this.
Okay,
See,
gotcha.
if I can't get this one done, if I can't get it on time, I can only make one. That's why we have these little babies here. I'm gonna attach it to each of yours, and it'll still have a transmitter and everything, and it will transmit your data.
How much is the radiuson going to weigh?
This one right now so far, not a lot. We're using a 40-gram transmitter, a weather shield, and little pieces along. The most it's going to be is the battery weight.
Okay, I think for now we should keep it separate, and then after, it's going to be much more complicated to get 2 different sets of data to be transmitted via the same transmitter.
See, that's where we're, okay, you see now we've just hit a problem because we've only ordered one transmitter. And that transmitter I was assuming that I'm using that here.
No, that's good. But
Okay.
I talked to Dr. Barry, and he said we're going to order only one for now. Test it once it's done and ready, then we can go ahead and order more. So
Okay.
that's not a problem.
Okay, because I just need to make sure that we all understand that this part right here is being built to transmit whatever data. We're going to connect this to this. We're going to
Yeah, that's
connect it to
possible
here.
too, but I just
Okay.
want to make sure that.
Well, just
You
so
know-
we're on the same
Redundancy.
page.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I need to be able to build 3 if we can get it working on time.
Yeah.
If not, well, it's going to attach to here, let's say, and we'll put an IMET on each, and they're still getting data, they're still going to transfer, we're still going to track it. That's
Okay.
why we have these commercial ones. And they're
Gotcha.
backups.
Stupid question. What's the particle detector team and who's in it?
That's Daniel Hermosillo, and then he can talk you to it.
Now, Daniel,
And potentially John Cow also. He's supposed to be supporting.
and John, yeah, John is working on it too. Okay.
So what? They have a chip and it's supposed to detect what particle is it?
So if he does do the particle detector, let's say, is Daniel coming down in August to do that, or is he gonna mail it to us? What's going on with that?
For the particle detector, John's gonna be like putting it together so you guys could have it there, and I'll be helping him. We're just trying to get like the studies out of the way, so make sure this is gonna work and everything. And then also it's kind of like Pinsky's like helping us out ordering it and getting like a package deal for us. So we're working with him, and he's on a conference right now for the whole like particle detector thing. So it's kind of like it's kind of deciding like, oh, this sounds good, you know.
So you guys haven't ordered any parts, have you?
No, because we've been waiting for Pinsky
So
for
there's
like.
the Raspberry Pi.
Okay. I thought, see, that's why it was the
We
Raspberry
haven't
Pi.
ordered a Raspberry Pi.
They ordered one. There's one in there. So
Okay.
whose is it?
That's Abdul's. but we're gonna.
So you're gonna need one then. So that
Yep.
would. Oh, okay, so he's gonna
Okay,
need
and
one.
the other thing, you guys need an Arduino and a Raspberry Pi?
Well, for this first flight, what we can do, since we are gonna recover it, we're just gonna put all the SD card, and then
The transmitter? Or
well, unless it's for the zero. Wait, unless it's for the zero flight, then we need to figure out how to transport from the Raspberry Pi to the Arduino, like our transfer our data to the Arduino and Arduino to our serial port for whatever they're gonna help us with.
You don't really need to worry about setting a transmitter per se.
No transmitters.
Or what?
I know that's different from the original information we had, but we have to provide all of our telemetry now.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
They're basically just
So-
giving us
See, that's why
thing
we
is-
have these, but yeah.
Yeah, so that's why if you can get the transmitter working on every single experiment by August 2nd, it would make much more easier for us to build it for the final.
And that's
flight.
why we need to know parts so that we can build it, and then we can order more, and then we can adjust. But we need time.
Okay, do you know any shields that you guys will need? Like RS-232, USB, any other stuff, GPS? Well, I guess we have the GPS one.
For the Raspberry
Yeah.
Pi, don't worry too much for it for the particle detector, because that's what Dr. Pence is gonna provide us. Like, he's gonna provide us that full package of Raspberry Pi connected to the particle detector.
Okay.
Well,
But then we still have to connect that to an Arduino, right?
yeah,
Do we know
well, we
how
need to figure out how to
we're gonna do
transmit the
that?
data now. Well, I thought we were gonna use something else, but
Well, what is the
Obviously.
connection from the Raspberry Pi to the Arduino going to be? Or what are the output connections on a Raspberry Pi, on the Raspberry Pi that he wants to give you?
well, see, that's on
The USB
for the Raspberry Pi. For the Raspberry Pi to the particle detector is connected straight to it, and it's just uploaded code, and it processes everything for us.
But
And
so
then,
that Dr. Pence keeps putting that together. But what we're concerned about is the Raspberry Pi to the Arduino, which John is saying is through USB. Is that true?
we can do that, and there's other options too, but just depending, I don't know what the specs on the Arduino, like if there's like a USB that we can't use, then we need to think of something else. Because
I
the
feel like there's
Raspberry
an
Pi does
Arduino
have
USB input shield, right, guys?
That's the
For
thing that's
input?
going to take to come in.
Hopefully, now we can choose another receiver. Hey, is that
And John, is that input? Do you know for sure?
it's a
Instead
Mac-
of maybe the Arduino generates data and then puts it out?
It doesn't matter. It's just going to be one of these cables that's going to connect to the.
Oh, okay. Well, wait on that then, because if we have a receiver already, radio station built in with the receiver and all that.
No, that's a different kind of receiver.
Okay, so
That's why.
right.
It
Okay.
receives from the GPS satellites.
What type of receiver? Okay, well, we need to get on this so we can harass those people to get it tested.
Aaron called them today, but Michael, the guy who we talked to, didn't pick up, so we're probably going to call him again tomorrow.
We just gotta harass them. Harass
Try and
them.
bribe them by saying NASA and other. Cool
Yeah, tell them that
Where are they?
we're gonna send pictures and put them on our website. Yeah. Okay. Now, so BLF. What's BLF?
BLF is mine, and
Okay, right.
it's basically going to be some PVC pipe with wire wrapped around it, and then that wire is going to be connected to a amplifying circuit, and then that circuit will go to an iPod, and then it will have another output that goes to the Arduino.
Yeah, the iPod. You're using Arduino Mega, right?
Whatever the standard one is. Yeah, everyone should be using a Mega. We have one Uno lying around because I bought one and that was just what they had at EPO. But that shouldn't be, I mean, it's fine to play with, but it's not. Mega is the standard for all our payloads, and I can't see a reason why anyone would need something other than a Mega.
Yeah, it's good. So, do you know? So you're not going to use a memory card. You're just going to store everything in the iPod.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm going to use flash memory or hard drive memory. When I say iPod, it doesn't have to be an iPod. It might be like a MP3 player or something.
Okay. Do you know what
But-
shield you use to connect to the Arduino? I doubt it's going to be RS-232.
Yeah.
Well, we have the USB host shield that you can also use.
Yeah, is it a mini USB? Could it be a mini?
That I don't know, and that's something that I need to talk to Dr. Bering about because it has to do with because I'm going to be making a little circuit board, and there's going to be lines on it, and one of them is going to be an audio output, like an auxiliary cable, that goes into the iPod, and then the other one I really don't know how it's going to connect to the Arduino. It could be, I think, audio would be the easiest for me, but it could potentially be through USB. It's just going to be a matter of what I can realistically wire.
What we could do is have the circuit. On one end, it's going to be an audio output, which connects to the iPod. And then on the other end, you either have a USB, which connects directly to the Arduino, or some other way to connect to the Arduino.
So yeah, I just have no idea. I know that audio input is basically like 2 wires. I don't know what I would have to do to attach a USB kind of cord to a circuit. Like, would I have to? Is that complicated? Do you know?
I don't know at all.
Okay. So let's say it's USB right now, and then
Yeah, then there are like several USB shields that we can use, so that's not going to be a problem.
We bought some extra.
Yeah, we have some
Let's-
already, so.
So let's say that it is whatever would be easiest for y'all, and what would be the easiest shield for me to use for input into the Arduino?
It would probably be the USB.
All right.
Okay,
It
and
does-
another thing is that we would need to know the data rates. So if you're using an RS-232 or a USB, they have different data rates. Depending on how fast your data rate is, we might have to use a different shield.
Okay.
It's very unlikely, but it could happen.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be that bad, but yeah, you never know. But also, this USB shield has an SD card, so it's doing everything for her.
So for me, I can design my data rate around what y'all need, basically. At least for this flight. Maybe not for like the finished one, but for getting. Basically, what we're doing is prototyping in the extreme right now. And so if I can just get something that transmits some kind of data, even if it doesn't make scientific sense, because Dr. Bering is saying that I need the whole waveform, which I highly doubt we would even be able to send down. I would have to look at some pretty intense data simplification for that to be possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, y'all just kind of. And one other question I had about the USB shields is how. So for every input, you have to have a separate USB shield.
For every input?
No.
No,
Right. So
not
like,
really.
for if you have 2 or 3, if say VLF and Raspberry Pi, or VLF and particle detector and the gaseous compound, say they all 3, even if they aren't, but let's just pretend like they all 3 are using USB inputs to the Arduino. That's how that's what the critical interface is. Would we need 3 separate shields, or can we do 1 shield and put 3 plugs on it? Or can we put 1 shield and put 2 plugs on it, and then we need a second one for the third one?
That's an interesting question. I'm gonna have to find that out.
We have to ask, but that's why we need to
Do
know
we
what
have
y'all
a
want.
USB shield right now?
Yeah, we do have a USB shield. Right
Does
here.
it have 1 input plug?
Yeah, all the
Yes.
USB shields are gonna have only 1 input, but
And they also have a memory card space. Yeah, memory.
A place to plug one in?
Yeah,
Okay,
they have
so-
a built-in slot there too.
all right. I think Abdul's trying to say.
No, that's fine. So Arduino has 4 serial ports, right? So if you're saying all experiments need serial ports, then I don't think we can use more than 4. But I'm not sure if the shield has its own thing that do the function.
Yeah, but that's for serial ports. what if we have different shields, USB shields?
Let me Google.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that either. We probably have to Google that. That's a good question.
But do y'all think it would be bad if we had just one USB shield for each one? I know it would be heavier and not ideal for our final flight, but
I mean, not just heavier. It would you would need much faster processor, and I mean, there's no point in if we can separate all the payloads, it'd be much better. But I'm gonna have to find out if you can have multiple USB shields getting data using the same Arduino,
okay.
and then having them stored on different, probably different memory cards, right? Because if you have all the different data on same memory card, it's not gonna make any sense.
Preferably. Theoretically, there should be a way to sort that stuff out, but yeah, it would be easier if we could get it on one shield and then another set of data on a different shield, on a different SD card.
Okay, you have to Google that.
Yeah, but that's also, I think, that's why we use a multi-specs.
I'll get to the other last.
Okay. Where we at? Who's on the battery team?
I am.
You're on the battery team also? Okay. I know, I'm on my 14.
Guys,
Who else is with you?
is
What?
Chris
Who else is
Myers
on?
there?
Chris Bias?
Not in the lab.
Is he on the team?
Yeah, he's on the team.
Okay. And who else is on the
Abdul.
Okay. Abdul. Okay. And you guys need to get with Megan. Megan needs to get this to you all ASAP. So we can start doing that because we need battery. And this, we're gonna need battery. Everything, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, we need to
Megan,
get
do
that.
you know what she's talking about?
So
She
I've
would be
talked.
typing, so you don't have to wait and listen for her.
So I've talked with Dr. Bering about the battery. He said we were gonna need 2, and I was aiming for 1 battery for everything. So
Yeah, we need one battery for the transmitter and one battery for the Arduino plus stack and everything else. Yeah.
You don't think we can use one battery?
No, we have to have 2 batteries because the transmitter is not going to be on at all times.
Oh.
Like after a certain altitude, it has to turn off.
Oh, okay.
That's like a NASA requirement that he told us. Thanks.
Okay, well at least you know, I didn't know that. That's okay. Well, we still need the battery requirement, and then Megan needs to also get us the data rates ASAP.
Yeah,
so,
once we have that sheet with all the voltage information and everything, we can order the batteries. Yeah.
So we can order batteries, and so they can, and also so we can decide on how we're gonna get
This
this
is the
programming.
USB shield.
How big of batteries are we getting? Like, what's their power and all that?
That's
Well,
what
that's
we
why
need.
we need the data rate. Well, we need the
Megan.
specs, data rates, and everything else, so we can order that. And Megan's doing that right now. What did you do?
Oh, I'm just retaping it because
Oh, okay. What else?
Batteries, transmitters, data rates.
Particle detector. Okay, so the one that's really needs to start working right now is this particle detector. They need to order parts or whatever. If y'all are gonna have that professor working there, we need to see the progress, something. I don't know.
So what kind of information do you need from them?
Well, for the particle detector, we need to know what they're going to be using, how they're going to build it, what they want for their software. I mean, we kind of don't have anything to work with.
So here's the interface that y'all need to be working on for the particle detector. This is my understanding of it. Daniel or John, please correct me if I'm wrong. But y'all need to figure out how to get any sensor, any test sensor, to put information into a Raspberry Pi and then get that information out of the Raspberry Pi and into the Arduino, and preferably through the transmitter.
Okay, here's my question, because for the Radiothon, we're going to be using pretty much the same sensors. If not the same sensors, the sensors are not going to be that different.
No.
And if you make the code to get the sensor data from those sensors into the Arduino, we can use that if the particle detector is using the same Arduino. Yeah.
It should be similar.
Exactly.
Do you have to use a Raspberry Pi? No, but that's the thing. If he's using a Raspberry Pi, it's going to be
You
different.
make it a little
Right,
more
so
difficult.
that's
Is
kind
there
of
a
our
way that
big
you can just
challenge.
use an Arduino?
No. Not, at this point, no.
Do you have to use Raspberry Pi?
Yes, because
Yes.
that's the package that they're being given.
The reason why we're getting this package is because you need a computer to like process everything that it's doing. It cannot be
What, the big
like
box? What do you mean? Which styrofoam?
For the ozone zone.
The whole big thing? Yeah, I have some extra boxes we can use. Work with. That's no problem.
Okay. Yeah, because I just now thinking.
So we have these.
Now that I
Raspberry Pi,
start working, I need to make sure that this doesn't break.
Yeah, if they leave it here so you make sure it don't break.
I'm gonna be doing a oven test at home to make sure that this.
Okay. Alright, I'll get you one before we go.
Okay, so
What else are we missing?
in order for the software for the particle detector team, we're gonna need to know the sensors you're gonna be using, the data rates on those
I'm gonna go get my
sensors,
box. I'll be right back.
and then what else? And so you all are gonna be transmitting the data down too, right? Or are you gonna store it on a SD card?
So basically, what we're trying to do is like to see if this even like works in the air. Like everything's gonna be like it's gonna be coded for us to be like to process like what's happening, the sensors. So you guys don't have to worry about that. It's just us trying to get the data from the Raspberry Pi to the Arduino, and then Arduino, I guess, telemetry wise. And that's what we're gonna try to do.
We would need to know what sensors we're using,
Oh,
and then
hold up.
what kind of data you're getting.
All we're doing is they're gonna send us the data. We just have to know. Well, I guess we don't even have to know what order the data in. We just have to take it in, take the string in, and I guess send it out.
Is it gonna be a string, a CSV,
Say that again?
like a?
Yeah.
The data format, is it gonna be a CSV? Like, do you know?
No, I'm not too sure about that.
Like,
That's what we've been trying to.
Well, that's the thing. If I don't know what the sensors are, I don't know what the format the data is going to be in. Or I
Well,
guess
you can't really know the sensors because it's not a bot sensor. It's kind of like a made sensor by this company. Like I don't get what you mean sensors. There's only one sensor.
Right, so what I think they're actually interested in is the data format that the Raspberry Pi is going to put out.
Exactly.
so. Everything is going to be already connected to that Raspberry Pi then.
Yes. Hamza,
Okay.
what are some options, like what are types of data formats that they should go to the professor and say, is it this, is it this?
Well, there is CSV. Then it could be a string. It could be. I know for the TC, they have the Linux format.
Can you type these formats into the chat? Because it's hard to understand, and a lot of them are acronyms. So that needs to be a priority between. I guess I don't know who y'all would talk to because Dr. Penske's at a conference, but see if you can call him and get a hold of him, and then if not, then try to get a hold of the manufacturer if you know any of their contact information.
Yeah, like a spec sheet or something like that. That would be great.
I don't think there will be a spec sheet, but it would be nice if there was.
Any sort
Or
of
if you-
information.
Yeah, or if you can find out, because I think really it's going to be limited by what the Raspberry Pi does. So if you know
When
what
you buy
kind
it,
of
battery in here.
Oh,
you-
battery.
Yeah, and then you take it out and you connect it.
what
It's
kind of
just a
data
little-
typically comes out of a Raspberry Pi.
I mean, it could be something totally different. This is all that I know.
Guy, but he hasn't answered us. I don't know. Me and Don doesn't he email every day.
Guys, if you're talking in the room and you're not talking about what we're talking about, I understand you're still working, but try to keep it a little bit down.
Sorry.
It's fine. I know y'all are working. It's just you have loud voices.
People always tell me about my yelling. I tell them, let me know if I'm yelling because I don't notice.
Okay. What else do we need?
Okay. I don't know what else.
Okay. So what else do we need to do today? Talk
Oh,
about
the
PDR.
circuit.
circuit?
The relay circuit that me and Chris have to build, that's the most important part because without that, we're not even gonna fly. That's a NASA requirement.
Okay, so you guys building the circuit? You guys have your parts or what?
I think he ordered the parts. He said he figured out what we're gonna order. I think he has like submitted it to somebody else.
My understanding of the circuit is that unless he's ordering a super special relay, that we don't need to. This isn't stuff that we need to order. This is stuff that we need to walk into the lab and get, or walk into a Radio Shack and get.
Okay. We need a relay. We need fuses. We need there's one more part I forgot. Diodes. Yeah. Okay. So
We
have the
have
diodes
relays, we have diodes, we have fuses. I don't know if they're the right numbers that we need, but
yeah, for the relays we checked the lab. It's not the exact same number, and the number that the NASA guy sent us, it's like $500. So Dr. Baring asked us to look for a different one, and I think he found one, and he just has to order it, or maybe he has already ordered it. And once we get the relays, the only thing that circuit is going to do is turn the transmitter on and off periodically.
Okay, on, off.
Yeah.
it's a backup circuit, is my understanding. Like if we fly
Okay.
somewhere we're not supposed to, and the Army needs us to turn off our telemetry, then we'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
So this one a new page now?
So circuit, batteries, transmitters, data rates, software.
So who found the relay for that circuit? The replacement
Chris.
one?
Chris.
Okay. I need you to talk to him and find out if y'all can walk into a store and buy that.
Okay.
And if you,
I'll
if
ask
you can't, that's fine, but we need to verify.
Cool.
Store? Question mark? There you go.
And he's been
Alright,
having a lot of computer problems. So first his laptop died, and then he bought a new one, and then now he has to go get it fixed. So.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay, what else do we need? So, are we good, Hamza? Do you have everything that you kind of need
Uh,
to get
I
going, or are you
think-
still missing stuff so we can get it? Well, Megan said she's gonna work on that stuff and have it for you tomorrow, so we're gonna have that. So, is there anything else you need?
I'm not sure. I think that's just about
The
covers it.
logis. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the next thing I think we need to talk about is the PDR, right?
Right.
Yeah, data rates as well. Data
Yeah,
rates are
so
important.
can you go through a rundown of how to calculate data rates, Hamza?
How to calculate them?
Yeah.
It would depend on
The time frame.
not just the time frame. It depends on the sensors you're using. Again, I think most of this information, or at least part of it, should be in the spec sheets.
Well, we need specs anyway because in order to calculate this stuff.
Or would you prefer I upload on the USIP that like what data rates are viable, what we can use, and everyone try work
Do
on
that also. People should try to either spec out or calculate. In my case, it was calculate the data rate. So I don't know if most people the sensor just comes with the data rate or something like that. I know I shouldn't know the answer to that question, but I don't in my head.
Okay.
So we need at least,
But yes,
you know,
please do an evaluation of what data rates are reasonable.
That's
that
what
would
you're
be
saying,
excellent.
at least
Okay, I will talk to Dr. Baring tomorrow or whenever he's in the lab about each of the experiments, and so
Okay.
he can give me a like I don't know a ballpark number, and then
Okay.
if you guys don't know, you should ask him too.
Yep.
And also, can you explain like what units they have to be in? Because I know when I was talking to Dr. Baring about data rate, we were talking about two completely different units.
The only
And then
one
I
I
think-
know is baud.
Bit per second, which is the same thing as baud.
Yeah.
Okay, you sure? Because there's like
Yeah.
Baud is
like
the
Dr.
same
Baring
thing as
like
bits
maybe
per second.
talk like different language or something.
He does that a lot.
Okay. So it's
Yeah.
bits per second is a baud, right?
Yes. 1
Alright,
bit per
okay.
second is 1 baud.
Okay.
Okay, so if y'all, and is there anything else with that y'all need? Anyone in that room has questions for anyone else? Or anybody online has questions?
Not that I know of.
No.
Okay, cool. So go ahead and open up the PDR.
Yeah, I do have one. Sorry. Yeah, I do have one. It's Dr. Barrett in his email said that everyone has a data rate, but as far as I know, I don't have any data rate. So what would he be talking about as far as my project goes?
The only thing I can think of is that he would be talking about the motor control or the fan control.
No, you will have a sample rate, not a data rate. You're going to have a sample rate,
Okay.
how much milliliter per second or whatever, but you're not exactly data. You're going to be sampling at a sample rate.
Right.
So that's what you're going to be measuring, the sample rate.
Eric knows what
And
she's
then
talking
from
about.
there, with your measurements and stuff, then you'll have your data. But,
I mean, I already did that in a way.
yeah, but that's all you can measure, sample rate,
Right.
not a data rate.
Yeah.
Because you're testing, you're getting a
Eric
sample
is
from the air.
correct.
So don't worry.
Yeah, I was a little confused about that because he said everybody has one. I was like, I do not have one.
Well, you have a rate.
He meant sample rate, which until this moment I wouldn't have been able to make the distinction. So it's very good that Erica did make that distinction.
So you're good. You're good. But my rate, for the radio song, I have Daniel should have turned in the PDR or us. I don't know if
Daniel
y'all will see
Sierra?
that. Yes.
Yeah, I just got it 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, I
Wait, which Daniel?
me.
Daniel Sierra.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
that little thing that you had sent to us, I went ahead and did that. I sent it to it probably about 30 minutes before the meeting started.
Did you
but-
send it to USIP?
Yeah, I replied all to that message.
Okay, cool. Hang on a second. Let me just check it real quick. Did anybody else get an email about how I was like, hey, can you guys fill out this slide?
Okay. So Daniel Hermosy already received it. So we're
No, I
good.
did not get that. What slide are you talking about?
So it should have had like a blue box stamp at the top. This, at first glance, this gaseous compound one looks good. I'm gonna need to review it a little bit later. But yeah, so it's basically what are you measuring? How are you measuring it? What have the previous results been? So like what have the studies that you've read about done before? What did they find and how did they find it? Then what you're expecting to find and the benefit of your even doing your experiment in the first place. So if y'all have that PDR file open, the PDR USIP UH August 2nd project draft 9, it should have red and white backgrounds, and if y'all go to slide 9 or 10, for some reason I do have one in there for the. So 9, 10, and 11 are what we're looking at right now. 9 is mine. That's my slide that I'm working on right now to figure out. And then 10 needs to be updated because 10 is total electron content. So just make sure that it's up to date and everything. I added on a section in the how bullet point. I also put previous results, which was not there before. So everybody needs to go through and do that as well. So gaseous compounds I'm going to review. VLF I'm working on. Hamza, are you going to update the TEC slide? Or is Arian going to do that?
The TC.
Yeah, you fill out her
Oh,
PDR PowerPoint.
yeah. I guess I'll do it. Me and Arian will probably do it.
Okay, I need it really soon, like Wednesday or tomorrow, if possible.
Yeah, it should be done by Wednesday for sure.
So have y'all
Not ask Arian to
read?
do it.
And then particle detection, same thing. Do y'all have that? Do y'all know what PDR file I'm talking about?
No, I don't know. No, I didn't get it.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't technically send it.
Oh.
So I'm gonna put a link in the chat.
Okay.
I see it.
Stop typing things.
He really sees it.
I know he is.
There. So if you click on that, Daniel, download it onto your desktop and then open it and edit it from there. And don't edit it into Google, whatever.
Okay.
And then y'all can see on there I have the concept of operation slide on slide 12. So everybody can kind of have a good idea of what we're planning. It's basically a timeline of our experiment and what we're planning to do. In case anybody didn't have a good visualization of that this should be a good visualization. So we'll do pre-launch testing, and we'll start inflating the balloon, then we'll launch it. For the first 2 hours, the balloon will be rising, and we'll just be getting information about where it is. And when I say profile data, that means we will be inferring the wind speed by figuring out the speed of the balloon. And then it takes about 2 hours to reach its maximum altitude, which should be about 100,000 feet in the air. Probably most of our sensors will have just been on, even during the ascension. But once they reach max altitude, that's when we'll be getting pretty much the most scientifically interesting data. And it'll stay in the air for about 8 hours before it starts to leak helium and it starts sinking back down in the ground. And normally we wouldn't recover it, but this one we're told that we will, but that needs to be confirmed still.
We're gonna launch like 4 GPSs on it. We're gonna fucking find it. I'm gonna tell you guys right now. I've got 4 GPSs on it. We got a spot, and we got an IMET-R, and we're gonna have something else. We're gonna find it.
Yeah.
That's not the problem. The problem is if it works or not. Because we'll find the IMET, we're not gonna have any data.
Oh, and also, maybe for this one, but we need the parachutes and like.
We have parachutes.
mechanism.
The parachutes come with the balloons, is my understanding.
No, we have like 100 downstairs in a closet. Don't worry. The parachutes you don't have to worry about.
Well,
What do you think me and Dr. Leffler do every day? He's got a box of like, he made me count them. I have like 200 parachutes that they don't like. They just sit there because they wanted the newer ones, but I use them anyway. So it doesn't matter.
Do we have any bigger ones, like big?
No, they're not supposed to be big. They're a nice size, but they come down, they'll catch open with the air, and then fall down.
I mean, can we get parachutes that this can land soft? Third.
Well, you're gonna have it in something. You're gonna have to have a little box or a bottom or something, because they go down very slowly. So, I mean, I don't know how you would get hurt by that, but you'd have to literally stand there and just let it hit you.
Yeah.
You know, like it's so slow, and it actually comes down like a pendulum. It kind of swings a little. So, but that should be fine.
So
we should be good, right?
For y'all's I don't know about what's different for this flight, but in our Alaska flight, it's not whether or not we'll know from the GPS signal where it is. It will just be 500 miles away and not cost effective for us to go and fly after it and then try to find it. So there's something about this flight that makes it different. Like maybe we're expecting it to land close to another science base, and that would make it recoverable. But
You're in New Mexico. You're in like a very flat desert area. So mostly what we're gonna be learning from that is if we get signal from the mountains, because we're kind of like simulating the same mountain range as Alaska. But in this sense, there's no water near us. So either way, it's gonna land on land somewhere, and they can recover it. See, in Alaska, if we towards the right or towards the north or whatever, we can end up in the ocean. Like out here, we end up sometimes in the Gulf from Houston. So it's just trajectory and stuff like that. But over there, you shouldn't have a problem. It should land somewhere on land. So you'll be okay. We should find it.
Cool. So slide 14 shows the system level block diagram, and so it's kind of rough right now. And what I did was I just put all 4 experiments that we're planning to put on there. And so I've broken it down into the individual experiments. I'm kind of grouping them all together as one subsystem. And then you can see telemetry is supposed to be in the white box, and GPS is supposed to be in the black box. I have power next to the battery pack, and then I have something called SPNO, which is signal processing and output. And that is kind of like the combination of the CPU and software teams' work. And so it's basically the Arduino and all associated shields. And any software that would go into it also. So does anybody have any questions about the system level block diagram?
No.
Seems like no. Okay, so 15 is a physical model of somebody else's stuff. It's not ours. It's just a placeholder until we can figure out a physical model that will be kind of closer. Right now I'm not very concerned about this. It is important for us to have, but right now we don't have enough of an idea to kind of put that on paper. So then slide 16 shows the system concept of operations, which basically shows the data flow. It would show if we had any special actions, like a lid opening or something, but in this particular flight we will not. So it shows that there's sensor arrays, and these can either go straight to memory, or they can go to memory and the Arduino, or they can just go straight to the Arduino. And then we have to get timing on all of our data signals from the GPS units that we use. So somehow that is going to have to be coded in. And then data comes out of the Arduino. Either it can go to the telemetry system and then to the ground, or it can be stored and processed and then stored into a SD shield. Slide 17 is a bunch of placeholding information that is not for ours really, but we did identify some of the critical interfaces today, which I think is really good. So like, we have some interfaces in between the experiments, like in the particle detection, right? You have to have the sensors, and then there's some kind of circuitry, and then that goes to the Raspberry Pi. That I'm kind of considering that all as inside the particle detection team, but then you have to be able to connect that to the Arduino, and that would be what we would call a critical interface.
Yeah. I agree.
And this includes physical connections as well as any electrical or software connections that we'll have to do. So I'm going to be working a lot more on this, and the diagram that y'all put on the chalkboard should be very helpful in me completing this. The requirement verification table. So everybody, or at least the team leaders, need to sit down and think about, and so that means gaseous compounds, VLF, particle detection, TEC, software, power, and telemetry. Sit down and come up with at least 3 things that I'm like, all right, in order for me to have been successful, this needs to have done A, B, and C. So for VLF, I need to get a noise ratio of less than 10%, and I need to generate 4 hours of usable data, and I need to transmit at least something down from my VLF experiment. It doesn't have to be full waveform, it doesn't have to be useful in this case for this flight, but I need to transmit something to make sure to kind of test what I'm doing. So that's kind of like an example of what y'all should put. And if you can, start that list right now if you can do it off the top of your head. If not, make a note and please do that later. And if I don't get anything from you about the requirements, so that's what I mean when I say requirements, is what does my experiment have to do in order for me to think I am successful in doing this? So yeah. The slide 19, I don't really understand unless there's a balloon user's guide that I need to look at, and there probably is, and that's probably where that relay requirement comes from, but that's something that I need to talk to Dr. Baring about. Sharing logistics, this is going to be different for everybody's project a little bit, so I know there was a discussion at some point about well, really, the U-Pod's a good example, right? So Colorado put together the U-Pod for the gaseous compounds team, and they tested it on the ground, and they're like, hey, if you, and then we said, hey, if you give us that box, we'll fly it on a balloon, and then we'll tell you if it works in the air. So that would be something that would fall under sharing logistics. That doesn't apply for this August 2nd flight, but if any of y'all have anything like that, where you're flying somebody else's stuff, and or some kind of way where somebody's interested in our information and they would need it for something else, then we're going to talk about that. That's not really what this slide was intending. The slide was intending sharing logistics between USIP teams, which we're not involved in at all. Was that a question I heard somebody starting to ask?
Well, it's not really for the August team because I'm not really part of it. But go ahead.
Okay. So then the next is the subsystem design, and those on that slide, those are the 6 subsystems that I'm identifying for the August 2nd project. There's TEC, VLF, and particle detection, which are the experiments, and then there's power, telemetry, and signal processing and output, which is basically the software team. So slide 23, I've kind of split up into 6 sections because we need to have 6 different block diagrams. And once we get them together, we'll see if we can make them all fit on one slide, or maybe we have to do 3 on each slide or something like that. But then I would really prefer that y'all do these block diagrams like I have on slide 24 in PowerPoint, and then send them to me attached to an email as PowerPoint, because that means that I can still keep y'all's same connections, but I can reshape the boxes as I need to and change font stuff. So slide 24 is my current block diagram, and it shows all the stuff, the data and the connections and the power that I think I would need. And so when I say standard payload, that refers back to slide 14, where I had the system level block diagram, and where I put in their standard payload, that big yellow/orange box. That's what I'm calling the standard payload. So I need one of those from everybody. So I need one from TEC, from particle detection, from the power team, from the telemetry team, and from the software team / Arduino team. Do y'all think y'all can get that to me by Wednesday?
He'll try.
So that's like 4 different diagrams for me.
He's saying that the 4 different diagrams for him.
So which ones would that be for you, Hamza?
TEC, software, the battery. I guess somebody else will take battery.
Right. So decide right now which ones you're gonna do and which ones you're gonna give to somebody else.
All right, I'm definitely gonna do TC.
Okay.
That's my experiment, and then I can do the battery one.
If you can, I would suggest giving you only doing one and giving the others to somebody else. Or maybe you work on it with somebody else.
That sounds better.
Yes. Less work for one person.
Yeah.
So decide right now.
Okay,
and
I'll do.
who you're gonna give it to.
And then I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to do the software one myself. So software and TC. Because for TC it's gonna be me and Arian, so it's just not gonna be myself.
Okay.
And then the rest can take the other one.
So who else wants to speak for power or I guess telemetry?
Yeah, battery.
Yeah, so that's power. Who wants to do power?
Yeah, I'll do power.
Okay, Abdul's gonna do the power block diagram. And then who's gonna do the telemetry block diagram? I think it should be Erica.
She left, so you'll need to email her about that.
Is there anybody else in telemetry who's not Hamza or Abdul?
I can look into it. I'll talk with Erica about it.
Okay. I hate to assign something to her when she's not around, but
She left.
I think she's the best candidate for that. Unfortunately, I don't like giving her more work, but she's probably the smartest choice.
Alright.
Okay, and then everybody needs to do the block diagrams, and the same way they need to do what's on slide 25, which is the trade studies. Everybody should have a bunch of different trade studies, but just pick the most important one. So like for me, the most important one is the iPod. And so I have, this is a placeholder, this is not my actual trade study. I need to go through and pick a bunch of different of iPod versions and MP3 player versions. And what I would be looking at, everyone is going to be looking at cost, weight, battery life, or power draw, whatever it is.
So there needs to be one trade study for each payload, each group?
Each group, yeah. Each of the 6 things that we're doing a block diagram for, we also need a trade study for.
And it doesn't matter which trade study it is?
As long as it's important, then no, it doesn't matter. As long as you're not doing a trade study on the pencils that you use to make your drawing.
Well, I mean, they are important, but...
Yes, that's true, they are.
Alright.
Okay, and I'm not going to make y'all do a risk matrix, but I am going to make y'all do risks. So when we say risks, like on slide 26, we're talking about bad thing will happen if possible thing also happens. So like we won't get any data if our battery runs out. And so be thinking about at least 3 risks for your individual projects, and that's the same 6 groups. That's VLF, TEC, particle detector, power, telemetry, and software, basically. So yeah, come up with at least 3 risks, and then I will put those into a matrix and then ask for your input about whether or not it is. So I don't know, has anybody not seen a risk matrix before? It's totally cool if you hadn't.
This is my first time hearing of one.
Okay.
But I understand the concept.
Yeah, so you take a bunch of different possible things and you rate them according to how likely they are to happen versus how shitty would it be if they did happen. And so if you have high on both of those scales, then obviously that's a really strong risk that you need to work around and make sure to prevent against. Slide 27 basically says what I just said. Slide 28 is the TEC diagram, and it looks alright, except for either y'all need to do what I did and show 2 different paths. So like a path for what happens on a zero pressure balloon and a path for what happens on a latex balloon and a path for what happens on the ground. Or you need 3 different block diagrams with those, or just pick the one that you're going to do on this August 2nd flight and make a block diagram of that. And then, like I said, I know y'all didn't know before, but submit it in PowerPoint form. And so that way I'll be able to move the objects around if I need to.
Okay, so zero pressure versus the other one.
The latex.
We're not doing latex on this thing, so you don't have to worry about that, really. If you want to go ahead and make a latex block diagram, that's fine. But if y'all are going to be doing TEC on the ground and latex, then we need to see both of those things. Or if you're just going to do latex and not worry about it on the ground for right now, then I need to see one block diagram that shows what the process would be for.
The only difference would be the transmitter. If we're doing it on the ground, we're not going to use the transmitter because it's going to communicate with the satellite via the transmitter of the receiver.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So just make what my point is that the one on the slide right now on slide 28 is not sufficient. Please make it meet all the requirements that I previously explained. And then slide 29, it's basically a word explanation of all the trade studies that you did. So for pretty much everyone, the main constraints are going to be weight, cost, and power, because those are the overarching themes of these projects, is how can we do this lighter, cheaper, and more power efficient. So just write a short paragraph on these slides. So these things that I'm going over for TEC right now, everyone is going to have to do. All 6 teams are going to have to do.
We can do all of that, but the biggest problem for TEC right now is if you get the receiver on time or not.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
We're just going to continue ahead like we are going to get it on time.
All right.
And then in the meantime, we're going to pay however much money they will take to ship it faster.
Shipment, I don't think that is a problem. It's just that it's not even ready. It's not even going to be ready until July or mid-July.
Okay.
We're trying to contact them and make them hurry up.
Right. Yeah. Whatever we can do to rush that is good, but I mean, if we can't, we can't. That's something. That's a problem that we knew we were going to run into. It's long lead times. That's what we got to think. And that could be one of your risks, actually, on your TEC, is that maybe this thing won't get to us in time and we won't be able to, or the risk would be we wouldn't be able to fly because we didn't get our transmitter in time and test it sufficiently.
Okay.
Slide 32 is the gaseous compounds block diagram that I have on file. Like I said, it's not sufficient. It needs to be A, in PowerPoint form, but more importantly, it needs to be not of the U-pod and be of the radiosonde that we are building. And then I guess we should also have one of the IMET-R, which there might be a readily available copy of that. So is there anybody here who can do that?
Not that I know of.
For gaseous compounds, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put you down as in charge of making the block diagram for the homemade.
Yeah, sure. What slide was that? You said 32?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And so for gaseous compounds, the same thing kind of goes, is the research regarding the homemade radiosonde, just a paragraph about what y'all did, the most important trade study that you have, and a risk matrix to go along with that, so at least 3 risks. Same thing with CPU research, and block diagram, and same thing with telemetry and block diagram and risks, and same thing with power and block diagram and research and trade study and risks. Same thing with particle detector. So particle detector, do y'all understand now what I need out of you for the block diagram on slide 51?
Say that again.
So on slide 51, you'll have a block diagram, and it's that 2-page one. And it might be fine, but I need it to be in. I need you to send it to me in PowerPoint form, and preferably it needs to be one piece. Like everything needs to be connected, or at least if they're not connected, then they need to be side by side, which is kind of like how they are. But and any changes or new information that y'all
Okay.
have, put that on there as well. And same thing goes with slide 52, which is the research, just a paragraph explanation of what research you did. The most important trade study that y'all did, which will probably be a comparison of the package that y'all are getting from Dr. Penske versus the ridiculous shit ton of man hours you would have to put in to make this yourself. And it would be like, well, duh, we got it from him.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm really going to go over today in terms of the PDR. Does anybody have any questions?
Not yet.
Let me check the chat. Okay. Does anybody have any comments? Like, this meeting was good, this meeting was bad? The PDR, any of the stuff that we talked about before we started talking about the PDR, the project in general, attending Fort Sumner. Okay.
Yeah, for the PDR, it's just gonna be like Rachel.
Yeah.
Okay, for the PDR, is this gonna be like including all the other experiments like later on too, or
later on it will.
All right, yeah. So like basically, I guess after how should they be working on this at the same time?
Yeah. So that's a good point. Daniel Canales, if you want to get started on any of the things that I talked about for those teams, please go ahead and get started. It probably won't be included in the August 2nd one. I mean, it virtually certainly won't be, but you will have to do it eventually, and you might as well get started on it now. And the same thing goes for, I guess, Star Tracker and who else? Spectroscopy, and one other thing that I can't remember off the top of my head, and I don't think they're here.
I already have a proto PDR for mine. I just need to look over it just to make sure that what I need improved.
Cool. And then make sure you email that to me in PowerPoint form.
It should already be on the drive in PowerPoint form.
Okay. Preferably still email it to me. Having it on the drive is good. It's just having it in my inbox is even better.
Okay, I'll just forward it to your inbox then.
Cool. Did everybody fill out the survey that I sent?
Yes. But mine will have to go to no since mine is not long term.
What do you mean?
Oh, I put it in Navy for my experiment, but since it's going to be the zero pressure and not the latex, I can't launch anything unless I send my own balloons and stuff.
Okay. Yeah. I think I remember seeing most people on there. And so yeah, we're gonna have to figure out something where at least one student is there the whole time. And I don't know, maybe I'll have to take an extra day off work. I'm already taking my one holiday this summer during that week so that I can be there on the Monday. But Maybe I'll take the Tuesday off.
I can still be there and stuff, but my experiment will not be going up.
Right. Yeah. And so, that's true. We need to have at least one person of the experiments that are flying, and people who would be able to at least try to fix something if something went wrong, and be able to answer questions if they have them for us. Because we're going to be integrating with like at least one other team of payload that we have no idea what their payload's like. And most likely that integration will just be using a string to tie our stuff to theirs. But it might be a lot more complicated than that. So we need to be prepared if that does happen. Does anybody have any questions about the Fort Sumner flight?
I would.
Do you know the dates? The exact date?
Yeah. So I'm telling everyone August 2nd because that's 2 days before we need to have the assembled payload on site in Fort Sumner. So we can ship it there or we could drive it there, but it needs to be there on that Monday, August 4th. I think that's a Monday.
Okay, yeah, it is a Monday. So,
And then between August 4th and August 8th, I don't super know what happens, but August 8th is when they actually start flying or start trying to fly, which we might have unfavorable conditions. It might rain all weekend, and then we wouldn't be able to fly until the next Wednesday or something. But August 8th is when they're going to be like, all right, let's go see if we can launch.
Okay, because I can probably get at least 2 days off of work, so we can go Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday is just going to be off anyway.
Yeah, so what it's looking like is that we're going to have somebody the weekend before and the weekend after, but it's like that Tuesday, Wednesday gap that I feel like somebody should be there for.
I'm off the 2nd to the 9th if my job lets me. So only if my job does not let me off, I'll be there the whole time.
Okay.
So yeah, at least have someone there the whole time.
Yeah, and we'll need to figure that out, and we might do that, we might not. It's gonna depend. So we would probably have to like do a lot of. If we did do that, we would have to do a lot of training with you and being like, all right, this is how you handle everything, and so we'll have to figure that out for sure. But probably we would be driving out there and then renting a hotel room. So we need to be careful how much money we spend. So no more than 3 people, I would think, would be ideal. And the more carpooling we can do, the better. Stuff like that. So yeah, just make sure that everybody fills that out. That the whole survey, in addition to the doodle poll, and then we'll figure something out from there. And y'all will be getting an email and personal contact about if you're the ones who get selected to go to the August 2nd flight. Any questions about that?
I don't have any.
Okay.